Hi, this is Chris from Triple C Workshop. I want to show you how I made this campsite sign. This sign was about 13 inches in diameter. That board there is around 16 by 16. And someone pointed out later on when they saw that image that I'm using my clamps the wrong way. That's okay. It's glued underneath. Actually, I'm using carpet tape. It works great, double-sided carpet tape, so it's a great option. Here's the concept of the sign. Again, it's 13 inches, state silhouette, campfire, marker for the Anderson, South Carolina. The most important part was getting the names to go evenly flow around and arc around the circle. So I'll show you how I did that in Adobe Illustrator. So now I'm in Adobe Illustrator. This is an older version, but it works just fine. I've already laid out how I want the names and how it arcs around. I'm going to show you how you arc around just another name or another word or something like that. One important thing to note is the reason why I'm in Illustrator is it creates an SVG file, and you can use that SVG file inside of Easel. You can import that in there, and it's so much easier to maintain the arc, maintain the size and the ratios in a little bit different tool. So I've drawn a circle, and it's right in the middle of the outer and inner circles of this particular design. And I'm going to get the path. I want to get rid of that fill in. So you're going to select text on a path. Once you select text on a path, you're going to want to go ahead and select the path you want the text to flow around. And from there, you just go ahead and start typing whatever words you want to. You can select your fonts and do all of the various things there. But the key thing is that the text will flow around the path that you've selected. Or you can type whatever text you want to, but you notice as in the text is at the top of the line, your path that you've created. And the way you do that is you fix that through type on path options. It's under type, and then type on path, and then type on path options. And from there, you can make some minor adjustments. You can choose center right there. Make sure you use preview so you can see what's going on. You can change the spacing of the texts, but that's how you make the adjustment. The key thing to note is the fact that this is how you make your adjustment, so that way you can visually see where it's at inside of your design. You can place it anywhere when inside of Easel once you do it, but you need to know size, you need to know spacing, you need to know how it's going to look, and to me, this is the very best way to do that. Now, if you need to rotate the image for whatever reason, mostly it's visual here in an Illustrator. It doesn't make a difference here where it's at. It does make a difference the orientation of the text. As you see, Jack and Phyllis is arced from the bottom up, and then the X-Carve Pro is from the top down. That way the orientation goes. But it's mostly visual here. I can easily take this file once we get it saved and move it over to X-Carve and then rotate it. But you will notice that if you rotate it to the bottom, your letters will be upside down. So you have to make sure the orientation is correct in the very beginning. So the final step before saving this file, you need to take your artwork, whatever you're going to do, and expand it. That way X-Carve will accept the file in a better format. You notice those little dots around those letters? That's kind of when you know you got it right. So you want to save this file. You don't rename it to whatever you want to call it. But the key thing is you're not going to save it as an AI file. You're going to save it as an SVG file. And that is one of the importable formats that Easel will accept. So you accept SVG, you hit save, a little box will pop up like this, and most of the settings you really don't have to touch them. You may want to change your decimal places. I haven't played with it enough to know exactly if 3 or 4 makes a big difference, but that's how you get the file into in a format that Easel will accept. Okay, I'm in Easel now. I need to bring that file in, so I'm going to select Import SVG. The file will allow me to select the file, and then select the file. A little pop-up will come up from Easel saying, hey, these are some information you need to know about. Here's some guidelines. You can select Import Anyway. In most cases, it'll work all the time. Sometimes you have to play with it a little bit. You notice I have a black box there. That was something I probably didn't hide correctly. That's okay, because you can just get rid of it. You can pull it in and get rid of it. One thing to note, all of my letters, all my words there are separate. And so I want to select them and I want to combine them. And in doing so, it helps me in two ways. Number one, I can move things around very uniformly. The one caveat is if you were going to cut at different depths for whatever reason, you can't do this because it's going to cut everything at a single depth. And that's what I want in this example, and that's what I want in the design. So you notice I did it on a single page or a separate tab. That allows me to not interfere with other things. You can do it actually off the material if you wanted to, but it makes it easier if you can just see it on another tab, another design, example. You don't have to use it. But you notice here, it flows right around that circle there in gray. That's exactly what you want. Now, it may be you've got to align it yourself once you get it here. Now, when I say align it yourself, you can do it by hand like I'm doing there, or and I do this in other things or other projects, I'll actually manipulate it by the actual number, by the XY coordinates. And that's really the best way to do it. But here's a cool thing. Look at that. I just made that larger. And so, well, the text wasn't large enough. Yeah, that's okay. You can do that, but it's no longer going to flow properly, arc properly around your circle. You notice that. So you got to make that decision in your design part before you bring it over to easel. And so that's one key thing there that you want to know. So let's start looking at the actual design of how I created this sign. All right, I'm into my main project now, and this cut took a total of about 2 hours to cut all the different sections. This main cut here was a 90-degree V-bit, and it was about an hour and a half, an hour and 35 minutes processing time or cut time on this. The key thing here is number one, I wanted that topography look, that kind of that V-shaped look on the material, on the wood, as you notice there. I think that was really, really cool, helped the final product to stand out. But notice on the inside of that circle there is the same topography look. I did not want that. So I used a straight bit, 1/8 inch straight bit, and I did a stair step down to give that kind of inset look that I was wanting. But I needed to do the V-carve bit to get that topography look. All right, to get that stair step down, this is about 10 inches out. And I didn't really anticipate the V-carve making that wide of a cut, of an angle. And so I had to play with this a little bit. So the cool thing is I just had to step down just a little bit, cut a little wider, cut a little wider. You'll see in the images here following that I had to go back and clean it up. But the great thing is, as long as you know your center, your origin, you can go in and make that cut again and do it real quick, maybe less than a minute, and then you clean it up. I need to bump it out just a little bit, or bump it in, and it's real easy to make those adjustments there. Now we're on to the final cut. It's the most satisfying. That's when all this work gets to come out of this material. You get to cut it out. This was at 13 1/8 inch. I should have done it a little bit wider. I didn't anticipate the V-carve bit cutting so deep on the bold font I had at the top. Just a little minor adjustment. It's really hard to kind of see that exactly in easel when you do this detailed look. So it's something you have to play with and experiment with over the period of time. So here's our material. This is locked down. I told you I probably used my clamps wrong. It is double-sided carpet tape on the bottom, so this holds it down. The easel, you notice the ridges and ridge lines of the V-carve bit. I was very surprised that the V-carve bit did such a smooth finish. I didn't have to do a lot of sanding on that bottom of that inset. It was nice and smooth. It really amazed me. I was very pleased with it because you don't want to have to do a lot of extra sanding, especially in small areas. All right, this is about an hour and a half after the cut. You notice the V-carve on the outside edge. I'm getting ready to take that off using a 1/8 inch straight bit. I had to stair step it a little bit to pull more material out of that V-carve area that it left, but it cleaned up really nice. Everything's nice and smooth. I was very pleased with both the V-carve 90 bit and the straight bit. Okay, this is right after cutting. It's time to sand, and then we'll move on to stain and we'll start painting. So here's one of the major lessons. Test your stain. I didn't do that. I bought a brand new stain. It was called Gun Stock. I like the color on the outside of the can. I put it on there. It did not look good. I was able to recover by using a darker stain. I didn't wipe it off. I just let it soak in overnight. I gave it a light sand in the morning, and that gave me the look I was going for. I applied the painter's tape just to protect the wood from the drips. I haven't sealed this yet, so I'm being very, very careful with the white. There's like 4 or 5 coats of just white and some sanding, plus the blue. So it's just there to protect the wood. At this point, all the detail work is done, minus the letters on the outside border. It has 5 coats of polyacrylic. The polyacrylic helps in 2 ways. Number one, it protects from the weather, but the other part of it is it helps you during the painting process. You can clean up real easy, do a light sanding, and it keeps really clean lines, especially when you have those recessed letters. Well, now it's down to the final spray coats. I'm going to put 5 more coats of polyacrylic on. This is that final look. All the letters have been done. Everything's sealed up. Well, that's a wrap. I hope you enjoyed this video, how I turned this concept into this plaque.